Good evening and welcome to the April 10th, 2018 regular meeting of the Troy Planning Commission. Copies of the agenda for tonight's meeting are available at the entrance to the room. Additionally, the agendas and minutes of prior meetings are available on the city's website. The meeting will be conducted in accordance with the agenda as presented or amended by the Planning Commission. The roles and responsibilities of the Planning Commission are outlined on the reverse side of tonight's agenda. State law establishes planning commissions. The commission is comprised of 9 members, all of whom have volunteered to serve. Members are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by City Council. The other individuals seated at the table this evening are representatives of the city's planning department, the city's attorney's office, and the city's planning consultant, Carlisle Wortman Associates. If you wish to address the Planning Commission, please come forward when recognized and provide your name and address on the sign-in sheet. Please begin your remarks by stating your name for the benefit of the commissioners. All remarks are to be addressed to the Planning Commission, not to anyone else in the room. At this time, I ask that all cell phones, Blackberries, PDAs, or any other devices that might disrupt this meeting please be either placed in silent mode or be turned off. Ms. Sarnicki, the roll, please.
Mr. Abhidian? Ms. Cruz?
Here.
Mr. Edmonds?
Here.
Mr. Faison?
Here.
Mr. Hudson?
Here.
Mr. Krant?
Here.
Ms. Kupa?
Here.
Mr. Zanzika? Mr. Tagle?
Here.
Ms. Howe?
So we have a quorum present, right? Item number 2 on the agenda is approval of tonight's agenda. Can I have a motion?
I'll approve.
For Mr. Krant,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Cruz. The vote, please.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Mr. Edmonds?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krant?
Yes.
Ms. Kupa?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
The agenda is approved. The item number 3 is the approval of the minutes for the March 27th, 2018 meeting. So, Mr. Edmonds?
I move to approve as published.
Ms. Cooper? Vote, please.
Mr. Edmonds?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krant?
Yes.
Ms. Kupa?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Minutes are approved. Item number 4 is public comment for items not on the agenda. So are there any comments for items that are not on the agenda? Seeing none. Go to item number 5, rezoning request. Public hearing, rezoning application, file number ZJPLN 2018-0006. Proposed Somerset Park Apartments, east side of Coolidge, south of Big Beaver, parcel 882029176002, section 29, from R1C, one family residential district, to MF, multiple family residential district.
Mr. Cowell, make the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening to the Planning Commission. The city received an application for a rezoning for approximately a 39-acre parcel at the Somerset Park Apartments. I'm going to give a brief overview of my report presentation and then be open for any questions from the Planning Commission. The parcel in question is approximately 39 acres. It's the area outlined in red. For context of the area, the Somerset Apartments outlines this parcel. It's the Somerset Apartments are at Gulfview and Coolidge, just south of Big Beaver. As noted, the golf course is surrounded by Somerset Apartments to the south, and to the east and to the west, and to the north is the Big Beaver commercial area, which is a mix of office and commercial. The area in question is currently zoned R1C. All the surrounding zoning to, again, the south, east, and west is multifamily, which is the Somerset Apartments, and to the north is Big Beaver form-based district. We received an application to rezone the entire 39 acres of the entire golf course. The purpose of the rezoning was to develop an administrative/leasing office for the Somerset apartment complex in itself. The area of the complex is going to be located in this general area adjacent to Gulfview Road. The current zoning of R1C does not permit that use to be located in R1C district, hence the reason for the requested rezoning. We do note that the applicant has not indicated any future plans for the golf course nor any plans to remove the use of the golf course. However, we do note that if the 39 acres were rezoned, the entirety of the 39 acres will be allowed to be used for the uses that are permitted in the multifamily zoning district. So you'll hear me talk a lot about the golf course, and the reason why I talk a lot about the golf course and the future of the golf course is because it's the majority of the use of that 39 acres moving forward. So a little history of this development. Somerset Apartments, Park Apartments was approved and constructed in 15 phases between 1964 to 1967. In our initial review, the golf course was always included as part of the concept for the entire development. The multifamily portion of the apartments was zoned multifamily, and the golf course was always zoned single family. When this was developed in the 1964 ordinance, there was a clause that stated that private non-commercial recreation areas were permitted in single-family zoning districts, but were not permitted in multifamily zoning districts. It's thus our assumption that that's the reason why this golf course was zoned R1C and has remained R1C. But again, the records from 1964 aren't 100% clear, so that is simply an assumption as to why it was zoned R1C. But it has been zoned R1 or R1C since 1964, the golf course itself. When considering a rezoning, there are 5 standards that the Planning Commission and ultimately the City Council is asked to consider. The first is that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the master plan, and if the current zoning is in conflict material, such conflict is due to one of the following: 1, a change in city policy; 2, a change in conditions; or 3, an error in the master plan. I'll talk about this standard first, and then I'll move to the next 4 later in the presentation. This slide shows the future land use map in the master plan. You'll note that the golf course is highlighted in this black. It is future master plan for land use for high-density residential. So as such, the destination of multifamily is consistent with the seeking of the rezoning to multifamily. However, when considering rezonings, you consider only one portion of the master plan, which is the future land use. So you have to consider other elements of the master plan in consideration. And that includes the provision and protecting of open spaces, providing amenities and services to all residents, ensuring utility capacity of future development, providing additional high-density residential uses on or near Big Beaver, providing high-density multifamily areas in close proximity to the most intense non-residential areas, and lastly, increasing the diversity of the city's housing stock. In addition, I do want to note that there was a comment about the golf course in the recreation master plan that's adopted by the city, in that it says that most apartment and condominium developments in Troy have some residential facilities to serve the needs of the residents. I underlined the portion that reflects the golf course, Somerset Park Apartments. The Somerset Park Apartments complex includes a 9-hole golf course, tennis courts, playground, community center, and outdoor pools. These recreational facilities address the recreational needs of all residents and alleviate the need for public recreation facilities in the neighborhood. So again, when considering the master plan, the applicant is requesting to rezone the entire 39 acres for the purposes of developing this administrative office building. However, we do note when considering the master plan or the rezoning, the entirety of the 39 acres must be considered, not just the portion that they want to develop for that particular use. Again, I do want to note they have not indicated a future use of the golf course. So if considered in isolation, the development of the administrative leasing building is consistent with the master plan. It does serve a need for the adjacent residences of the apartments. However, in addition, I would note that if the golf course were to be developed as multifamily, it would comply with many of the elements of the master plan. Its future land use would comply with the future land use as multifamily. It would be increasing the city's housing stock, and it would be providing additional high-density residential along or near Big Beaver. However, we must consider all elements of the master plan when considering the rezoning. Simply because the future of the golf course is unknown, we are not able to address or understand all the elements of the master plan to be addressed. This includes the utility capacity for future development, the density and scale of the future development, protection of open space provided the golf course use, and future amenities and services to Somerset tenants. Because of those unknowns, we can't adequately address if this meets the consistency of the master plan. The 4 other standards the Planning Commission should be considering with this rezoning is that the rezoning will not cause or increase any nonconformity, that public services and facilities affected by the proposed development will be capable of accommodating service and facility loads caused by the development, that the rezoning will not impact public health, safety, and welfare, and that the rezoning will ensure compatibility with adjacent uses of land. Again, similar to the master plan consideration, in isolation, the development of this future administrative leasing building would meet the standards of the rezoning. However, again, due to the unknowns of the golf course development, the future of the golf course, rezoning standards, all the other 4 rezoning standards cannot be adequately addressed or understood at this point just because of the unknowns. So with that being said, the Planning Commission is asked to hold a public hearing, consider public comments, and consider the zoning request in light of the master plan and the rezoning standards. We do note that the applicant may wish to reconsider either rezoning only the portion of the development where they're requesting the leasing building or come back to the Planning Commission with a conditional rezoning for the entire site. Thank you.
Thank you. So, I'd like to open it up for questions. Ms. Edmonds?
I guess I'm surprised that, this represents a 39-acre parcel open space, and we all know that open space is being looked at very critically now across the city. But yet, in reviewing the plans, I noticed that it appears, or at least somewhat, and that's one of the questions I'll be asking the developers is, if you intend for this to always be a golf course, then why do we need to rezone it? Yet it appears that that's all they want, but I would imagine that high-rise housing has much more revenue potential than a golf course. So those are some of my concerns, and I'll wait the developers' comments.
Sure. Mr. Taylor?
Do we have any quantifiable standards for open space if the whole 39 acres was rezoned as multifamily?
It would meet. It would meet the It would have to meet the multifamily requirements, which is simply a 20% open space requirement for future development.
And if you were to play out that presentation, how many units are we talking? How many? I mean, there's 39 acres. I don't know how many acres the administrative building is going to take up, or if it's an acre.
Yeah.
So 20% of the remaining acreage is all that would have to be left open.
Correct. And in terms of, we didn't do an analysis in terms of what the future yield would be based on multifamily zoning. And part of it's due to layout, infrastructure, putting additional roads in, et cetera. So it's really, it's a higher level of detail than we were able to do for this particular zoning.
Just one last comment. This becomes very difficult if I know we can't consider anything else on that parcel. But with all of the questions on a parcel of this size, it leaves it really difficult to make a decision whether or not rezoning 39 acres at this time without further knowledge even is doable for anything other than an open space like a golf course.
And that's the finding that we had made in our review, was because of the unknown future of the golf course being such a large area of unknown. We weren't able to adequately address the standards for the consistency of the master plan and the 4 other standards just because of the unknown. Like I said in our review and in my report, in isolation, the development of the administrative building does meet the rezoning standards, if that was all that was going to be rezoned. But because there are an additional 37, 38, 36 acres left over from that portion of the site, that's a lot of unknown to be able to adequately address those standards.
So it's the same 20-acre open space requirement for if the admin building is constructed. So if you look at the site, if you assume 39 and a half, 40 acres, 20% of 40 acres, so you're looking at 80 acres of open space if it's maxed out.
Right. Plus the loss of the amenities that the master plan thought was valuable, i.e. a golf course for those residents. Thank you.
Ms. Cruz?
Just one comment. I have played the Somerset Golf Course, and I thoroughly enjoy it because it's a par 3, or, it's like a little executive course, and that is just my speed. So I do enjoy the fact that not only is it available to the residents of Somerset Apartments, but it's available to the city as a whole.
Okay.
And, I know we have Sylvan Glen, and what's Sanctuary Lake. But, this is a whole different game, for the more serious golfer, I guess. But my question really is, if we rezoned all 39 acres as multifamily, and because it's really part of that Big Beaver corridor, are we talking the potential for 6-story apartment buildings, or even taller than that? Because I forget how tall a building can be. How many stories?
It doesn't apply single-family residential.
Yeah.
I don't memorize this stuff.
Me either.
I should, that's what I get paid for.
That's why they pay you the big bucks then?
8 stories,
So it could
up to 100,
potentially
up to 100 feet.
8 stories up to 100 feet, and potentially as many as could be built with maintaining 20% open space.
And taking out area for utilities and additional roads and whatever else.
Parking,
So,
driveways,
driveways, so-
dumpsters.
Oh, I love dumpsters.
Yep.
And asphalt.
And stormwater management would have to be dealt with too. So
Right.
there are a number of factors where it's hard to determine what the maximum yield would be.
Mr. Kren?
This would be, it's kind of hypothetical because again, there's so many unknowns. But if we max this property out for multifamily, is there an adequate sewage, water supply, electric supply to such a large development, or would that have to be brought in?
That would have to be studied.
Okay.
That would have to be reviewed.
Again, I didn't expect a firm answer, but
Yeah, that would have to be reviewed by the utility. Eventually, if it goes down that road, it would have to be reviewed by the utility department.
Stegel?
What are the stormwater management techniques that they're using now
For the golf course?
for the complex, for that whole complex right now? Do they have a
I'm
retention
not-
pond on the golf course that's being used for stormwater, or?
I would have to research it, and
Okay.
I can't answer that right now.
We researched it. I don't know what the stormwater requirements were back in 1964 to 67 when this was being developed. There may not be any. We don't know.
Mine's not so much a question as it is sort of a challenge. If we had, when we were looking for housing here in Troy 20 years ago, Somerset Park seemed appealing because of that golf course. Whether or not I'm a golfer, I'm not. Not serious, not anything.
Well, see, it's just your
But,
city.
but it just seemed, and I'm sure I have an extended family and friends who've lived there, some people I know who still live there, and I could see if we did the rezoning and then we did a hearing and then it was by right, then we would have residents come in to the public hearing and then we would say, well, we can't do anything. And I don't want to be in that situation if we can avoid it. So I'm throwing that out there. If we rezone the entire 39 acres and then we have a public hearing and there's something that the public doesn't like, then we're not left with anything. And I think that's one of the draws of that apartment complex is that big green space there. It's,
Well, the only way to get around that then is the conditional rezoning, I think, right? I mean, they come in with their conditional rezoning for just the leasing office, and the rest of the course remains R1C.
So just to clarify what you said for those in the audience or watching on television, if the entire site were to be rezoned, doesn't give them entitlement just to do what they want. They still would have to go through the site plan review process, submit plans that comply with all our rules, but it is possible that what they seek is by right, which, if they met all the criteria of the zoning ordinance, would be obligated to approve.
And eliminate what's a significant amount of what's currently open space.
Correct.
Right. Right.
Correct.
So one could argue that developers do this as a backdoor way to get what they want. Yes,
That's
the
not to-
answer is yes.
Some developers could, yes.
Yes.
It's not to infer that anything is
No,
untoward.
no, but I'm just saying one could make the
Right.
argument.
Yes,
I think we should hear from the
Yes.
developer.
Have the applicant?
yep. And remember, Mr. Chairman, it is a public hearing, so after the applicant has dialogue, we'd want to open up the public hearing.
Okay. So is the applicant?
Yes, I am here. Good evening.
Good evening. And speak at the microphone, if you don't mind, because
I don't mind.
it's recorded.
Good evening. My name is George Sumnick, and I represent the owner of the Somerset Park Apartments as well as the golf course, which is owned by the single owner there. I'd like to address some of the concerns here. First of all, there is no intent at all on the part of the owner to liquidate or somehow remove the golf course from the property at this time. One of the intents was to actually comply with the goals of your master plan to ensure that there was conformity with respect to the use classifications in that area. As you see, the R1C is just, it's spot zoning in total, because it is totally out of context where it is right now. If you also reviewed the documentation that was submitted in support of the rezoning application, you will see that the proposed administration building actually increases the amenities that are available to golfers as well as to the residents of the multifamily housing around, or of the Somerset Park Apartments, because there is a pro shop that is going to be developed there. There are terraces both on the ground level as well as a second floor level that will accommodate any lunch meetings, any leisure time that the residents want to spend there. My client is also intending on buying new golf carts for the use of the golf course there. So there is no intent in the immediate future to do anything with respect to the golf course other than have it remain a golf course with an improved administration building. Now, if you take a look at the documentation that was submitted, the administration building was depicted in the information. It's really a very, very nice space, and actually, thank you, Mr. Carlisle, or whoever is handling the slideshow there. Thank you for putting it up. It's really an excellent, it's a beautiful building. It's also going to be placed right on the street that comes in off of Big Beaver Road. So the current building that accommodates the golfers at this point is sort of to the left of that street. This will be right in the middle of that street. It'll be a great focal point from Big Beaver Road. The current use classification is R1C. It is not classified as a golf course. It's being used as a golf course. So residential homes could be built on that property, and the golf course could be eliminated in that fashion. So that factor has to be borne in mind, whether it's multifamily or R1C. The property owner can develop that property for residential homes currently as it is zoned. As Mr. Savidant disclosed, to the extent that there is any future development plans for the golf course itself, because certainly we have development plans for the administration building at this point. And actually, we would have liked to have submitted concurrently site plans for the development of this building. I know that in the information that was provided by Mr. Carlisle, he indicated that we don't know because they may change their mind. We don't have any intent to change our mind. We do want to build the administration building. That was the entire goal of the rezoning application. The rezoning application also considered the fact that this was truly spot zoned as R1C, and we wanted to make it consistent to conform with the multifamily residential use classification in that particular area there. So I believe that my client has taken into consideration the community desires, the desires of their tenants in their complex. They serve all of these tenants. They collect rent from these tenants. They have served these tenants at the golf course for many years, as noted by Mr. Carlisle, and the historic use of the property. There's no intention in the future to liquidate the golf course. In fact, the administration building is designed to improve the facilities for golfers that are attending there. I have my client's representatives here. I also have Mr. Trey Bryce, my colleague, to the extent that he wants to add anything to the presentation that I have missed. And we certainly are here to answer any questions that you may have. Trey, is there anything else that you need to add?
Just one. Go there, please.
Trey Bryce, also with the Jaffe firm representing the owner. The only thing that I kind of wanted to clarify, because it adds to the oddness of this piece of property, is we actually are asking to rezone this entire 39 acres. The parcel is 39 acres. As was shown, it wasn't as clear in some of the maps. The outer 100 feet of the golf course parcel, let's call it that, is already multifamily. It's like a donut. We actually have the multifamily on the outside and then R1C on the inside. So part of the idea of coming here, as you can see, it's the darker area, is actually multifamily already. So it's an odd duck parcel as it is. As Mr. Sumner pointed out, we're really just trying to make everything consistent, the parcel consistent with the original intent of the whole development, and just trying to clean it up. And while they could build houses right now, it also would be odd and probably not in favor of the Planning Commission of the city to have single-family houses circled by all of these apartment buildings that are already there. So that was just kind of add that little flavor for the weirdness of that parcel. Thanks.
Questions for them or public comment?
Questions first, then, yeah.
Does anyone have questions for the Planning Commission for the applicant? Mr. Evans.
Well, I'm not an attorney, but I heard a lot of use of the word intent. And that always gives me heartburn.
Well, I'm sorry that I used the term intent. It certainly was not intended to give you heartburn.
Well, I would rather maybe someone more. We do have several attorneys on our commission, so I think they could follow up with that. But you could sell the property if it was already multifamily. Anybody can go in there and put 8-story buildings on that golf course. And I know you've been a long-time owner here in Troy.
Attorney.
Yeah.
And if I could address that concern, my client is intending to make a significant investment in the administration building that's going to be located at the end of that street there. My client certainly wants to reap the benefits in terms of installing that building from the community that it is serving. That's what the administration building is there to serve. It's there to serve not only the apartment dwellers, but the golf course itself, because there is a new pro shop that is going to be installed there. There will be new golf carts that are there as well. I should have used the word plan. My clients do not plan on abandoning the golf course in the future. I used the wrong word, intent, and I apologize. It was certainly not, I didn't plan to use the term intent. I'm going to switch my vocabulary to plan, no question about that. And we do know that the property is currently, the use classification for that property is R1C right now. And we do know that to the extent that someone wanted to develop single-family homes there, they could do that irrespective of the fact that it currently houses a golf course. So I apologize for using intent.
But that would also, we'll forgive her in all due respect, that would involve your decision, the owner's decision, to sell that for single-family homes, which would provide a much lesser revenue stream than high-rise apartments of 8-story. You will admit that, wouldn't you?
I don't know, it really depends on the homes that are built there, I don't know. I haven't studied a plan with respect to what could be installed there.
This
But
commission,
arguably, yes.
this commission would, I think, would be very careful to not recognize that, especially in an area that is of such high land values. It's a very high land value. And I think the revenue stream from 8-story apartments built on there on that golf course would certainly probably exceed the revenue from your golf course. So I'm just little.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
I would agree with that comment, that the revenue stream from 8-story apartments would exceed the revenue stream from the use as a golf course. I would agree with that.
Just a question for you. I mean, obviously, a concern is the uncertainty, right, of what rezoning the entire parcel might lead to.
Yes.
So, and you mentioned the intent is not to redevelop.
Plan.
Okay, the plan is not to redevelop the golf course. So did you and your client discuss simply rezoning the parcel that's going to be the building that we saw in the renditions?
And let me answer that question in two ways. In part, yes, but remember what another goal was. What was communicated to me without waiving the attorney-client privilege was a desire by the city of Troy to create conformity with respect to the use classification there, so you wouldn't have the spot zoning that's created by the R1C. So to the extent that we dealt with the entire R1C classification through a single rezoning petition, we would address that desire that was expressed to my client. It wasn't expressed to me, but it was expressed to my client, and my client told me about that. And so that's why the zoning petition for the rezoning was for the entire parcel.
Okay, because someone communicated to your client that the city of Troy would prefer that there be conformity.
That's what my client told me was expressed to them by the city of Troy.
Okay.
You looking at me?
I didn't know if you wanted to comment on that. I mean,
I'm looking for somebody to comment.
We certainly had are you talking about, since we're mentioning names, I guess, I'll mention a name. Are you talking about Marty Smith? What was I supposed, are you talking about me?
It could have been, I don't know.
Could have been or was?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's what was expressed to me.
There's an inference here, I'm a cards on the table person. Are you inferring about something that I said or someone else?
I don't know, because no one told me. I was told that the city of Troy made that comment to them, and it could have been you, I don't know.
So you don't know who said?
And it could have been from Marty Smith. I wasn't present, and I didn't ask.
So you're quoting, you're not sure if someone said something and you're not sure who it was that may have said something, but you're not sure what it was that was maybe not said?
I just wanted to answer the planning
Okay.
commission member's question, and I expressed exactly what was told to me.
Okay.
I didn't explore that. I didn't ask any further questions because it seemed sensible to me to deal with that particular parcel of property to conform with the other use classifications immediately surrounding it.
I just want to make it clear that there seemed to be an inference, and people looked at me. Was there an inference that I said something, yes or no?
I don't think so.
But you're the one who said it. You're the one who inferred it.
No, I didn't infer that at all.
Yes, you did.
What did you say then? Just to be
I
fair.
said that my client indicated to me
Yeah.
that the city of Troy had a desire to have that entire parcel conform with the other use classifications in the area, multifamily.
Okay, well, the city of Troy is an inanimate object, so someone
I
from the city of
understand.
Troy must have said something. I'm trying to get to the bottom of who said what to who.
I don't know, but I will find out and I will let you
Okay,
know.
because you did say it at a public meeting on camera, and I just wanted to be fair to everybody. Okay,
I
thank you.
understand. I want to be very clear too.
Okay.
I'm not trying to hide anything. I just don't know, and I will find out.
Mr. Sumnick, and we did discuss the issue of bringing the property into conformance with Shrine zoning by rezoning, but in our meeting the one meeting we had with you, I don't think it's fair to say that the city ever gave you, at least in the meeting that I was at, ever gave you the desire that that's our desire to have that. So I think it's unfair for you to infer or plan on saying that the city told you they desire to have that be in conformance. There are a lot of multiple factors when you consider rezoning. Future land use and the current land use is just one of the considerations. So I hope the planning commission should not consider that comment when you do consider the rezoning for this particular property.
And Mr. Carlisle, I'd like to be very clear, yes, I didn't state that I was told that. The communication that I received from my client was prior to the meeting that I wanted to conduct with you folks, because I wanted to plan accordingly before submitting the petition to make sure that we were dealing with the issues in a way that was amenable to the City of Troy's plans with respect to land use within its community.
But if I may just say, rezoning is only one way to bring this into conformancy. So there's other ways to bring this golf course into conformance with our zoning ordinance, so.
Could you speak to the spots of witnesses?
So thank you, all three, for the clarification. I was just looking for the clarification, not for who said what, but that's helpful. Mr. Craig.
After I heard just what we heard, I wanted to address the applicant. Is there any reason specifically to ask for all 39 acres to be rezoned when you just need the area for the building to be rezoned?
I think that the prior answer to the other planning commission members' question really addressed that. That's why we submitted that. Is there a need? No, there is not a need.
Okay, thanks.
We're in public comment now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much for your time this evening.
So you want to clearly open the public hearing, take the comment, and then clearly close the public hearing.
So now I'd like to open the public hearing for the public to comment. So please sign in if you haven't already and make your comments at the microphone.
You can bang the gavel.
Please.
Hi, my name is Peggy Rush. I live at 2315 Golfview Drive, apartment 104. I'm in the Somerset Park Apartments. I was unaware of what was going on until the little sign that said rezoning appeared, and drove by and called the office and got the plans emailed to me, and I appreciate that. I certainly understand the desire to put together the administrative and the leasing offices and to improve the pro shop. I have many concerns. One, just a question, what will happen to the existing leasing office and administration office? They're in two separate locations, but what will happen to those? Is the design that's proposed consistent with the architecture of the rest of the complex? I'll leave that to you and perhaps architects and such, but it doesn't seem to fit with the rest of it. The comment about enhancing the golf course, yes, you'll improve the pro shop, you'll have the outside seating, things like that, you'll have the inside storage for the golf carts, from what I understand. But you are taking away the short game practice area and the chipping area. There is one on the west side. There is and that's the bunker and the short game area. And then there's a putting green with the more short chipping on the east side of that. I'm in one of the 3-bedroom units. All the 3-bedroom units surround the golf course. We pay extra for that, not only for the 3 bedrooms, but also for the view. I look at the first tee. I see the pro shop. I have a tree strategically placed so that actually when that's in bloom, I don't see the pro shop. I'm gonna see a 2-story building and a lot of parking. That's not what I signed up for, okay? I am concerned about the marketing of the golf course by losing those 2 areas, the chipping and the short game. There is a group that comes in and holds summer camps and also some low-key tournaments for children. It's called TGA. My son has been part of that since kindergarten at Leonard Elementary. He grew up with this company. They have summer camps. They moved from Red Oaks to Somerset Park. They draw campers from the surrounding communities. So that brings revenue into the city. If those parents are having lunch at Somerset or along the corridor or something while their kids are in camp, that's bringing revenue to the city. Eliminating those two parts of the golf course could influence whether that camp stays. Right now, last summer and this summer, they're having 7 weeks of all-day camps at Somerset Park Apartments. My son happens to be an assistant coach with that group now that he's gone through the system. He literally walks out our door to a job, and that's very nice. I know that has nothing to do with anyone here, but it's a convenience. So that plan or intent or whatever you want to call it for the golf course, long term, I'm concerned for the same reasons that have been brought up. For the short term, I'm concerned about the two areas that are being developed into parking. So I would propose that those two sections, if this goes through, be replaced somewhere along that golf course property so that it retains its appeal to golfers and also to the campers and the company that comes in with the campers.
Thank you. I'd ask that you start to wrap up. I should have said this at the outset.
Oh, sorry.
But it's 3 minutes for comment.
Okay.
So if you could start to wrap up, I'd
Sure.
appreciate it.
I would just wonder what the time frame is, and I'm sure you don't know this because it hasn't been planned yet and approved, but will the construction and the raising of the pro shop take place over the winter so that it does not affect the functioning of the golf course? And is it possible to write in that the golf course will not be affected?
Thank you. Would anyone else from the public like to speak? Close public hearing?
Yep.
So with that, I'd like to close the public hearing.
Go ahead.
Mr. Salvino.
Just to answer one question at the very end, there hasn't actually been an application yet for the administrative building. So they haven't even sought preliminary site plan approval yet for the building. So we're months and months and months away.
Mr. Edmonds.
I just have one more question for Mr., is it
Sumnick, yes.
Sumnick.
Or Sumnick.
Yes. With such a large rezoning, did you not go to your clients in the Somerset Apartments and request a meeting to let them know about this? Because we really highly encourage anyone seeking a rezoning or even a site plan review that may be controversial to the surrounding residents.
Well,
You did not, or you did?
Well, yes. My client reached out to the residents of the apartment complex. In fact, they invited residents of the apartment complex to come to a meeting. I spent time with my client. We wanted to plan appropriately to make sure that the folks knew what to expect on a going forward basis. So yes, absolutely, no question about that.
And what was the result of those meetings?
I don't believe that many people, and let me ask my client directly that question. Yes, I was told that residents visited a few at a time and that there were no more than 10. He said 6 or 8, actually. No more than 10 residents met with my client's representatives to talk about the plan for the rezoning of the property that included the golf course.
Just a quick follow-up. What is the total number of residents in Somerset Apartments?
About 5,000.
About 5,000.
give or take.
About 5,000.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Krant?
Follow-up to that, how many residents were notified that, of this plan?
I have to ask my client.
We can have him come up.
Yeah, we can have him come up.
We don't have to.
What is it? What's the question?
How many residents were notified? All of them?
Yeah.
No. Excuse me, no.
I'm a resident, I never saw anything.
Neither did I. Until the sign went up, the green sign from the city, I never heard word one about this.
So I just asked the audience, the public hearing is now closed.
Sorry.
So the dialogue is with the applicant and the planning commission.
My client indicated that all of them were notified. I don't know the method of notification. I don't know whether flyers were left at their place of residence or not.
Email.
I was told by my client that they were emailed.
When? Sorry.
You don't need to respond.
And frankly, I don't know. I have some email addresses that I don't access. I don't know. Sometimes I use my Gmail account. Sometimes I will use my Hotmail account. I don't know what email addresses my client had on record when they sent out the notification. So maybe that accounts for a resident not receiving an email. Perhaps they didn't check an old email address that they provided to my client as in terms of notifications.
Mr. Hudson?
I want to start by saying I think Mr. Carlo did an excellent job of showing us the two counterbalancing questions to be asked on this rezoning. And I think Mr. Edmonds succinctly said that over the past 2 or 3 years, there's been a great deal of concern in the city by its residents of a loss of open space. Most of it we have no control over because it's zoned properly and the private owner can do as he wishes within the confines of our ordinance. I am concerned, however, that if this whole parcel is rezoned, we're going to lose 39 acres of open space. This is an oasis in an area of a lot of concrete and brick and asphalt with a lot of people in a small area. This is a nice amenity. Even as we mentioned in the master plan, this was a concern in constructing the master plan. I've got a fairly simple way to handle this. That is, they apply for a conditional rezoning for their building. They leave the balance for a future consideration. They may not be planning on doing anything, but you know, Reagan said, trust but verify. And I just assume if something comes down the pike that they do change their plans on a golf course, the recreational areas, that we have an opportunity to examine those plans and make a good decision on any rezoning. So I think, as far as I'm concerned, even a rezoning on that small parcel without it being a conditional rezoning is a crapshoot. Who knows what we're going to get? But I intend on voting that this is not a good rezoning application in my mind. I'm going to vote against it.
Ms. Cruz, sorry. Ms. Cruz.
I fully support what Mr. Hudson has indicated. I don't think that this is a good rezoning of 39 acres. And I did take note of what the resident, I believe her name was Peggy, said when she went to the mic and made a comment about the architecture of what's been proposed on this site. I mean, I think later today we're going to talk about design standards at our meeting, and I think one of the things that we've talked about consistently as we've developed the draft standards that we'll review tonight is that, you know, things should probably fit in, right? Where it's existing structures and we're looking to add on to things that are already in existence, that it should fit in. And these apartments were developed between, was it 1964, 1967?
Right.
Were those the dates that I heard? And yet the building that's proposed is in no way, shape, or form mid-century modern. I would call that Mad Men. For like Mad Men, do you remember the show, the TV show Mad Men, mid-century modern? I don't call that mid-century, I call that Jetsons. But not mid-century modern. So, you know, I'm with Mr. Hudson on if we're going to do it, it really needs to be presented as a conditional rezoning. It needs to be for that building alone, not 39 acres of rezoning. And it sure would be nice if, you know, the building that was proposed did fit in with the other existing structures on the property in terms of design standards and flow.
Mr. Krant, thank you.
Yeah. Again, bouncing off of our Peggy that was at our public hearing, she had another concern, and that was this some kind of and again, I'm not a golfer, so excuse me if I get the terms wrong, a chip shot area and a short course. I wanted to ask the applicant, are those, if this is done and those are no longer amenities at this site, will they be replaced someplace else on the site?
Do you want the applicant to answer?
Yes, please.
Oh, I'm sorry,
The short game area and the chipping area, will they be
Will they be
replaced?
replaced if they're removed from this area?
I frankly, I don't know, but let me ask my client, do you know? My client says that there was no discussion of that, so I don't know, and I'm sorry, I can't answer your question.
Okay, thanks.
Ms. Koopa.
So what I said in the beginning still holds. I think that the concern, Mr. Savedant explained what I was talking about, because planning terms are always not clear to the lay person. And I think that that's a really important aspect of communicating with the people in the surrounding neighborhood. And I'd like to see a clear answer on how they were communicated with, whether the communication was really comprehended by the person who received it. It should not be in Greek or another language that they cannot understand. Sometimes planning is its own language, and so I think it's really important that we ask when developers go in, they talk to their neighbors. So this is no different, even though they are customers of the apartments. They're providing, we heard from some, but I'm sure if everyone understood of the 5,000, if it was explained to them, I'm sure we would have more people at this public meeting. And again, I reiterate what we said at the beginning, the community wants us to retain green space. That's why we did a tree protection ordinance in 2016.
And cluster.
And cluster development. And so my answer is what Mr. Cruz.
Another follow-up regarding the architecture. The architecture of the mid-1960s, I believe there are 3 different phases, so there's 3 different types of architecture design on that property right now. None of it is stunning today. I would like to see an improvement, but also I'd like it to reflect the Somerset Collection building itself, the shopping area more so, with stonework and things that bring that element into this apartment development more closely. So that, again, we don't have discretion right now, but I would, to demand that, but I would suggest that the applicant, when designing this new building, look at those kind of materials which are part of the same overall
That
big
should fit
development.
in. That's a fabulous idea. That's brilliance. You had a moment of brilliance.
One.
Just a clarification question, but are we talking about the building today?
No, absolutely
No,
not.
we're not.
Absolutely not. But I just thought I'd throw that out anyway.
Understood. So it seems like there's a commonality of sentiment around the table. So are we ready for a resolution?
So what are our options? Can we, the one we quite often use is to table it.
I'd like to suggest we just why not deny the rezoning request?
I'm okay with
You can always
that.
come back with another one.
I'm okay with that.
I agree.
I'm okay.
I would move that this body deny the application for rezoning. Mr. Savana?
So just, and Julie, Ben, feel free to jump in here, not to interrupt Mr. Hudson, but, so the role of the planning commission in a rezoning application is to make a recommendation, so we're not.
I stand corrected. That's
So-
right. Our recommendation
So
would be
if-
to deny
if-
the rezoning.
If that's the direction of the planning commission, so just, let's
Yes.
just play this out before you get a second, if I may.
Okay.
The planning commission theoretically could recommend denial, you could get a motion and vote in favor of the denial. It would still go before city council.
I
but they-
understand that, yes.
Mr. Tate?
There is a second, an alternative resolution in the packet, which I think accomplishes what we all are trying to accomplish here, but gives the developer an opportunity to come back in front of us. I mean, he's heard our comments, to come back in front of us and with either a conditional rezoning for the parcel that's necessary for the administration building, or not, but it kind of puts the onus back on them before our recommendation goes to city council.
I was just looking for the alternative resolution.
So that's 7 of
There's also a handout here.
Is that here? Could
I think we're just prolonging the death, but I could withdraw my motion and let somebody sponsor the alternate resolution of coming back.
Ms. Cooper?
Could we also put in with the potential resolution that the planning commission postpones it, giving the applicant an opportunity to revise the application, but also ensuring that they communicate in a way that's effective, that all 5,000 people who are in those apartments understand? Or is that something we can't?
Well, they should know that.
It-
They should know that anyway.
I'm going to lean to Mr. Dufresne for this, but I would suggest that that not be included for the reasons, one, it's not an ordinance requirement, and two, I don't know how we would quantify as adequate. I think they obviously heard tonight. I think when they come back, that's something the planning commission can follow up with, and then make a determination, but I don't think it necessarily is something that we can bind on them as part of this.
Then I
It's not part
propose
of our-
resolution
it's
B.
not part of the ordinance.
Be it resolved that the planning commission hereby postpones this item to provide the applicant an opportunity to revise the application based on all the comments that they heard this evening.
I'll second that.
Ms. Sarniki?
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krant?
Yes.
Ms. Krupa?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
No.
Mr. Edmonds?
Yes.
Item is postponed. Item number 6 on the agenda is zoning ordinance text amendment, file number ZOTA252, design standards.
We'll delete that thing. Bear with me, Mr. Chairman. My comments that I were here. Here we go, right here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. March 13th, the Planning Commission discussed a number of ordinance revisions for the addressing the issue of design standards, and we had a lengthy and involved discussion about design standards. If you will recall that Ms. Cooper wanted us to use the word creative in every paragraph. Not quite.
Bucket.
Use synonyms. Use a thesaurus.
Yeah, we're looking.
Yeah, so we took copious notes, and we actually both rewatched the YouTube video. By the way, anyone wants to relive any of these planning commission meetings, you can go to YouTube and relive it. It's fascinating.
So we all have a YouTube presence now?
We do.
Never felt so cool.
Yeah.
I'm in the in crowd now.
So we'll go through these really quickly. Start from the top. So some of these changes we've made, some of these changes we told you we'd come back and kind of revisit. So 8058, number 15, we all agreed that we should, for a requirement of site plan review, we add the requirement that color renderings and 3D building models be provided.
Should we hold our comments till the end?
No, let's make this a kind of a working meeting.
I would suggest that we add after 3D computer building models, so we're not confusing anybody with physical building models.
3D computer building models,
Yeah.
that's a good suggestion. I was wondering how to clarify that, and that's very helpful.
Why we couldn't get 3D building models?
Well, we actually,
Very creative.
in our zoning ordinance, we actually had a requirement for certain types of uses for a 3D model. And at
Physical
one-
model.
Physical
Physical
model. And at one point, we had a bunch of these old models in the planning department. Yeah, they don't age very well, by the way. Styrofoam and glue doesn't tend to age very well. Building models shall be oriented to demonstrate proposed improvements in context of site and surrounding properties. We didn't want to just show the property, we wanted to show it how it relates, so. It's number 17, well, to be 17 amended, we added a requirement that all drawings for principal buildings shall be designed and sealed by a licensed architect.
And Mr. Taylor, you wanted me to check the state law on that? What do
Yes.
you want me to, what am I looking for? What
Look
is?
under the licensing regulations to see if only architect can sign and seal documents submitted to a municipality. I think engineers are also allowed to do that. I think it's an umbrella.
Okay.
Not that it's an equal to equal, but I just want to make sure we're not usurping or contrary to what state law requires.
Okay, thank you.
So next in section 806, we added a section specifically titled Site Plan Review Design Standards. You'll notice we pulled this from a memo form into ordinance form. As such, we tried to tighten the language up a little bit here as well, make it read more like an ordinance, because that's what it's eventually going to be. So there's an intent statement. These design standards are intended to enhance the overall character of Troy by building upon patterns of development that create or enhance sense of place and a well-defined and vibrant design context. The following general standards and any standard established for a specific use shall be applied when considering a site plan application. So again, there's the three buckets that Ben referred to them as. So bucket A, development shall ensure compatibility to existing commercial districts and provide a transition between land uses through application of the following requirements. 1, building design shall enhance the character of the surrounding area in relation to building and parking placement, landscape and streetscape features, and architectural design. 2, street fronts shall provide a variety of architectural expression that is appropriate in its context and prevents monotony. 3, building design shall achieve a compatible transition between areas with different height, massing, scale, and architectural style. Any comments, suggestions, concerns with bucket A?
Doing well, keep going.
Okay, I'm on a roll. B. I like your attitude, Mr. Howard. I'm just waiting for the hammer to fall here.
Yes.
Development shall incorporate, two colons at the back of the sentence here, I caught that. Development shall incorporate the following recognized best architectural building design practices. 1, foster a lasting impact on the community through the provision of high-quality design, construction, and detailing. 2, provide high-quality, durable materials, such as but not limited to stone, brick, glass, and metal. EIFS, or material equivalent, shall only be used as an accent material. 3, develop buildings with creativity. Looking your direction, Ms. Koopa. That includes balance, composition, and forms. 4, design roofs that are appropriate to the architectural style of the building and create an appropriate visual exterior mass of the building given the context of the site. 5, for commercial buildings, incorporate clearly defined, highly visible customer entrances using features such as canopies, porticos, arcades, arches, wing walls, ground plane elements, and/or landscape planters. And 6, include community amenities that add value to the development, such as patio seating areas, water features, artwork or sculpture, clock towers, pedestrian plazas with park benches or other features located in areas accessible to the public. Any comments, questions,
I've
concerns?
got a question, Brent. Maybe it's just I don't understand the language, but you've got, where is it? Ground plane.
What are ground plane elements?
Yeah, ground.
On number 5.
Are you talking about a plane as sort of being a tier or a level, or I guess I don't understand what a ground plane is.
Mr. Taylor, actually,
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Taylor. Would you like to add?
We'll put on the spot.
The ground plane is the plane you're walking on.
Okay.
It could be different materials, it could be colored, like it could be a colored concrete,
Right.
identifying a pathway to the door. or
Architects
different-
understand this, so it's okay then.
Yeah, they'll get it.
All right.
They'll get it.
And C, enhance the character, environment, and safety for pedestrians and motorists. We should add something at the back of this sentence. Through the following, something like that.
Including following.
Yeah, something like, I'll add verbiage there. 1, provide elements that define the street and the pedestrian realm. 2, create a connection between the public right-of-way and ground floor activities. 3, create a safe environment by employing design features to reduce vehicular and pedestrian conflict while not sacrificing design excellence. 4, enhance the pedestrian realm by framing the sidewalk area with trees, awnings, and other features. And 5, improve safety for pedestrians through site design measures. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
Outstanding.
Yes, excellent. One quick comment. There's no mention here of a design standards committee to review stuff. We're not getting into that?
We had that discussion, a very robust discussion on that, and it was at this point to allow the planning commission to serve as that as to the site plan review process.
There are several of us here who enjoy creative.
So the next step is scheduling a public hearing, planning commission public hearing, for not only this one, but you'll remember we talked about building height in the GB district. So we'll do both those. I didn't bring that tonight because we all agreed on the verbiage. So we'll have 2 public hearings that the upcoming month, we're about a month out, and we'll consider both amendments.
At the same meeting.
At the same meeting.
After it's vetted by Lori.
After it's vetted by the attorney. Thank you.
One quick comment. On this next page, we've got section 3 savings and section 4 severability clause. Where are these elements?
That's standard for all ordinances.
Okay, I just wanted to know how that fit into design.
So this is actually, well, I'll let Julie speak. It's actually, city council is going to adopt this ordinance.
But it's going to be incorporated into the ordinance, and when it's a savings clause, so that if, or a severability clause, so if a court says, oh, what you've drafted here isn't constitutional or isn't legal or whatever, it saves the rest of the ordinance. It doesn't make the entire thing
Null and void.
Appreciate it.
It was just standard legalese.
So is there any action we need to take, or is it just the concurrence of a?
You need a resolution.
No, I think the record indicates there was concurrence from the planning commission that a public hearing would be scheduled for those 2 items.
Could you let us know when that public hearing is held at city council?
The public hearing will be held here.
Here,
And then you-
before it goes
Then you
to
make a
city
recommendation to city
Okay.
council, then they review.
It's like the rezoning, so rezoning is a map amendment, this is a text amendment. The planning commission makes a recommendation to council on the text amendment, and then council also holds a public hearing.
After hours, they'll have.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 7, public comment for items on the current agenda, but since there's no one here, we'll move to item number 8, which is Planning Commission comment. So I'll start with Mr. Tagle.
Well, I have a couple of comments tonight. I would like to applaud our vice chair, who did a wonderful job tonight. But I also like to applaud the astute observations by some of our members with regards to design issues. I think the comments were appropriate, and
You can't be talking about me, 'cause
I'm sorry, I wasn't meant to, I meant to make a Tom.
everybody but me.
Mid-century modern and the Jetsons, I mean, well, it's
And I understood Mad Men.
But it's creative.
But on a serious note, I do think the comments were appropriate and that the architect should consider the context. I mean, this isn't an isolated site, you know? Now, on the same token, and I think you mentioned it, the buildings that are there are tired and they're old and they're not something that should be necessarily mimicked.
Right.
But I think there's somewhere in between
Yeah.
where those are and what they were proposing, which could be much more appropriate. So, thank you.
I'd like to thank both of you and anybody else that worked on the design standards. I really am glad we finally have them.
Ms. Grant?
Yeah, I concur. Thank you for providing a design ordinance. Appreciate all the hard work that went into it.
Brett, thank you for cross-examining Mr. Semick. If you hadn't done it, I was going to give this few questions too. And this thing about attorney-client privilege, he had no attorney-client privilege with the city. You're right, it's an inanimate object. It's composed of many people. You speak through resolutions. There is no attorney-client privilege here. If he's talking about his client, I certainly think he waived it with all the comments going back and forth. But nevertheless, you were right. I was offended when he said someone in the city suggested we ought to do this.
Thank you.
Ms. Zarnicki?
No, thank you.
Ms. Cruz?
I'm thrilled with the design standards, and I really think that everything that we've done thus far as a commission, that being cluster and tree protection and now the design standards, have really improved what we are seeing. I mean, generally speaking, we've had a few little one-offs here and there that has kind of made us go, But for the most part, I think that the outcome to all of this change has been extremely positive. So let's not forget that sometimes change is a really good thing. It's not necessarily bad.
Mr. Edmonds?
I echo all that. One other thing that I know is a subject that Ms. Cruz and I are concerned about is the garbage thing. Why do we not bother, or what would it take to update that part that says that they have self-closing gates? You know, that's pretty much, and as you drive through the city, especially if you're driving the back of all these strip malls, you can count one after another of all of the things that are just open. The gates are open. Sometimes the lids are open on the boxes, so.
They're disgusting.
They are, and they're not conducive to public health and welfare. So.
Yes, Mr. Tagle.
There may be some technical challenges to accomplish self-closing gates on dumpster enclosures. There are other ways that I think can promote those doors staying closed, and it's by providing an entrance for the person that's throwing the trash in there, so they don't have, it's just kind of a screened entrance, you walk in.
It's like an alternate
So that the only
entry.
time those gates really have to be open are by the person that's driving the truck.
But shouldn't we require that in our ordinance?
Well, I'm not suggesting we can't or we shouldn't. All I was saying was I think that would be an easier thing for the petitioner to accomplish than a self-closing gate on a dumpster
On an existing.
enclosure. Well, new or existing. I mean, seriously, I mean, the thing about those gates is they are pinned into the ground so that the wind isn't blowing them open. So now we have to figure out, well, how do they get unpinned and automatically opened or automatically closed? And
I don't think customers of those clients are necessarily going by there and opening those gates. I think it's the people who are using the dumpsters that are opening them and not bothering to close.
You're talking about the trash haulers?
Yeah, no, or the haulers.
Well, I was saying, whoever is dumping trash into, or putting trash into, we can get them into the enclosure without touching the gates and making it, no less attractive. I mean, and it's fairly easy. But when we talk about not doing that and saying the gates have to be automatically closed, I just think that could open up a real Pandora's box.
But we could revise that ordinance, consider such things as.
Absolutely. I think we could. I mean, I think we could, because I think we could make an argument that it would fall under design, not only design.
Public health, safety, and welfare.
And public health, yeah.
Well,
So
I think we should
my
do
thoughts.
this, and then I think maybe you guys could just look into that.
Mr. Frank?
I think there's another comment over here. I'm hearing
We're
something.
going to talk, at the request of Ms. Cruz, we're going to go backwards to talk about signs.
Just don't want everyone to forget about, we still have sign, it's not under our umbrella, but we still have sign issues that need to be resolved in this city. And I, for one, have not forgotten about that.
I thought there was a process
All of it.
that was going to kick
The
off.
LED, the billboards, we're working so hard to make this city beautiful, beautiful. Let's not let that one detail fall through the cracks that takes away from our hard work.
So we're gonna study the four new signs and other LED signs in the city to make a determination if they're, kind of find out what's what in terms of, because a lot of residents are complaining that they're a safety issue, and we're gonna try to make a determination if they are in fact a safety issue based on brightness and frequency of messages, location of the signs, et cetera. And we'll start, we're gonna use our existing contracts with Carlisle Workman Associates, who are experts in sign ordinances, as well as there are lighting experts at HRC, Hubbaroth and Clark. We're gonna use their services. Pardon me? And make a presentation, present that to City Council, and we can certainly share those findings with the Planning Commission.
So are you thinking more needed to be done than that? Because I thought that's what you had said before.
That's the next step that's on the docket in front of City Council.
I'm just banging the drum, right?
You want to
I'm
make sure it
beating a
happens?
dead horse because, I don't want my silence to be interpreted as, I'm all good.
Acquiesce,
I'm acquiescing and I'm all good and, we don't, no, we have a problem and it needs to be addressed.
Great.
So one other quick thing that I want to bring up. I don't know if everybody is aware of all the new restaurants and everything going in. Maybe it's Mr. Savin that can give us an update, but there are several cool restaurants coming to Troy.
Well, the coolest one, I shouldn't say that. Well, let me defend what I just said. So I live in Independence Township near Clarkston, and in the village of Clarkston are 3 restaurants owned by the same group. It's the Clarkston Union, the Union Wood Shop, and Honcho. And they also own Vincetta Garage on Woodward in Berkeley, and Fenton Firehouse in Fenton. 5 outstanding restaurants. They're bringing one of those restaurants to Troy. Very exciting. They're bringing it to the corner of Big Beaver and Rochester in the old former Hooters restaurant. So that's going to be a...
Do you know which one?
I don't know what they're going to call it. It's probably going to be like, I'm guessing they're going to serve their mac and cheese, and it's going
I was going to say, I hope there's lobster mac and cheese.
Yeah, it'll probably be an offshoot, something that's comparable to all
Have
those.
the beer that they have.
I think it's called Union Joint.
Well, Union Joint is the name of the company.
Beer. Oh,
okay. There's what else, Mr. Evans? What are those?
There's one going in where the old Coney Island on Rochester Road.
Oh, yeah, what's going on?
And because that was a simple repurpose, the difference between the reason I'm so familiar about Union Joints is the construction contractor visited me and showed me the plan, just kind of showed up at the counter one day and rolled them all out to me and showed them to me. The contractor for the Coney didn't do that, so I'm not as familiar, I apologize. So the name escapes me.
I think it's N-O-N-I.
Noni.
Noni.
That's correct. That's
And
correct.
I don't know what kind of restaurant that is. I have no idea.
Again, because he didn't reach out to me, I'm not as familiar.
There's one on 16 Mile Road.
Is there?
In Sterling
A
Heights. Yeah. It's right where the Builders.
What kind of restaurant
Builders
is it?
Square.
What kind
Not
of-
Builders Square, it's old.
What kind of
Home Depot.
cuisine? What kind of cuisine?
I don't know, I drive by it, but I think it's pizza, but I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Mr. Frank?
I am good, thank you.
Mr. Carla?
Not to beat a dead horse, but I want to just
Oh, come on, get on the bandwagon. Why not?
Just to defend Brent and I, not that he needs defending, but I can assure you that in the meeting that I had with them, at no point did we infer that the city desires to have this rezoned for that purpose. I mean, there are a lot of factors that go in, so you can't just want to represent, that's not the way we operate in meetings when we talk to developers and prospective projects in front of us. So I just want to clear the planning commission up with that, if there was any concern on that.
Yeah, the only reason I looked over to you, or to Brent, actually, when he made the comment, because I was surprised it wasn't in any of the documentation that we saw. And I knew it would be if you had made that comment.
Well, I appreciate-
The quote-unquote city made that comment, so I wanted you to have the
appreciate you allowing us the
opportunity
opportunity to interject rather than have, so appreciate that.
Thanks for clarifying it.
Ms. Cooper, do you have another comment?
I did. I forgot to mention, last Tuesday, I was at the Clawson City Council meeting. You don't want to know why, but
We know.
actually, our current state representative was giving a legislative report to the Clawson City Council, so I went to see what that looks like. But they were also, at this Clawson City Council, approving their master plan. And so I got to meet their director of planning, and also their head of their planning commission chair. And they asked me, oh, we'd love to meet with you guys and, just connect. It's a neighboring city. And I said, well, what nights of the week do you meet? Tuesday. So, may not ever happen, but.
Maybe first and third.
I think it's the same as us. And then I have ZBA, the
Yeah,
third one,
ZBA,
so.
third.
Anyway, I just thought that was kind of cool.
The meeting is closed.
Thank you.
Well, you know what, you can.